Yeah, Woodbridge. That's when I was at Mayo.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Oh, that's neat. Kind of done. Excuse me. I know of. Okay. Well, that's nice.
Katie's got some big Siberian tea in there. Just as, but I'm sure this has a little bit of a mix in it.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't.
I just got
4 months. Perfect. Yeah. Just got a shot. It's got a spade. You're gonna get a chip put in it. And get all the stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. The time is now 7 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were
Carol Harvey,
Bob Carlson,
Ken Matthews.
Phil Mella.
Noel Sawyer,
John Schaefer.
David Buttery.
and Neil Levy. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns now. Great. Hearing none, the next agenda item is roll call, and Suzanne.
Thank you. Mayor Levy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harvey.
here.
Carlson.
yes.
Matthews.
Here.
Mella.
Yes, here.
Sawyer.
Here.
Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Would everybody rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to start with 4A, and I'm going to ask Gary Brevetto to join me. As most of you know, Mr. Brevetto has been an integral part of our community and served as a city councilman for
About 3 years.
3 years. Very passionate about Creative Arts District and was a leader in our community, decided to step down a couple of months ago. For his service and an appreciation from the council, from those in this room, and from the city of Woodland Park, we would like to present you with this framed, beautiful poster, and we thank you for everything you've done for us.
Just thank you, Neil. That's really nice. Never expected this. And my last meeting, Ken, I thought that was my farewell. He said very nice words with me. I never expected to come back here and get something like this. I really appreciate it. And you want me to say a few words, or?
Speech.
Sure, we'll let you say a few words.
I'm sure. How much time I got?
1 minute.
1 minute? Mute. Do you ever know me to do anything for 1 minute? Well, I really appreciate that, folks. And, I have a couple of things. You didn't think I was at a loss for words, did you? But I just wanted to give you an idea why I kind of resigned. It's nothing dramatic or nothing, personal or anything. But as some of you may know, I'm a pretty Type A personality. If you haven't guessed that, I guess you probably don't know what a Type A personality is. But they're pretty much goal-directed, have tremendous drive, very direct, sometimes appears to be aggressive, and want results yesterday. And I think all of you have seen that in me. And the bad part of being a Type A personality is anything Type A personalities do, they put out 120% effort. Now that's good for the city, but not so good for the individual. Just to give you an example, I've been gone now for I think it's a month and a half, and I've been going to this doctor for like 15 years, and my last test indicated that my bad cholesterol level dropped down dramatically in 15 years, and he attributed that to a dramatic reduction in stress, and that's not unusual for type A personality, but they usually ask for stress a lot of times. So that's one of the reasons that I had to leave. But despite health concerns, I felt another reason that I left, I didn't feel I had a platform to effectively promote Woodland Park and advance programs I was passionate about, potentially enhancing the quality of life of the citizens. So, those are the kind of basically the two reasons I left, and I feel really good, so health-wise anyway. But I got 3 recommendations, if I'm allowed to. Neil?
Please.
Please.
You're almost out of time.
Okay. As Neil mentioned, I passionate about the creative art, but one thing I want to start at first is I would encourage, and I know you guys believe in this, I would just encourage you to continue to support the Main Street program. The Main Street program is designed to create an environment to give citizens a reason to come downtown to recreate and socialize. Designed to promote our economic development, to enhance the bottom line for our businesses, and to attract unique and high-quality business to our community. Now, we're fortunate because we have a tremendous board of directors on the Main Street program. And we have committees that are just the best I've seen. They're really workers. Just a couple of the programs they're doing right now, one of which you may know they are co-sponsors for the July 4th event. We hope to get the business community and everybody involved in that. Another thing they do, they're working directly with the Downtown Development Authority for the development of Woodland Station 2, which many of you have seen. And that is, I think, in my view, would be the shining bright star in the sky for our community, and being able to provide an environment to increase our economic development, to bring our people downtown to socialize and recreate. So I would continue to encourage you to support that program. But even more importantly, and something that we're kind of lacking a little bit, I encourage the business to get involved in the Main Street program, because this really affects their bottom line. And a lot of them haven't really stepped up to the plate. So I would encourage the business in particular to get involved in that Main Street program. The next thing that I was kind of passionate about too was the Creative Arts District. I once again encourage City Council to continue to support our Creative Arts District efforts. This is the visual and performing arts, includes everything from bands to artists to web designers, you name it, architects and everything. Our creative arts community is a tremendous economic development resource for this city, and I think they've been underestimated. I think if they form their unit to coalesce and synergize their efforts, I think they can have a tremendous impact on the economic development of this community. So I encourage you to support that activity. Another thing I was somewhat passionate about, and Kip knows this, on the Utilities Committee, I was trying to get a green energy initiative kind of started here, and why Kip's involved, it involves the waste treatment facility. And I was with the Utilities Commission as well as with Kip many times in trying to develop an anaerobic biomass unit. Now, people probably don't know what that is. Those are big scientific terms. But I want to add that unit to our existing waste treatment plant facility. Now, an anaerobic biomass unit uses an anaerobic digestion, that means without air, without oxygen, collector by which microorganisms break down biodegradable waste material, which is what his plant produces. I mean, waste comes into the plant. The neat thing about that, we now have a way to be able to take that waste and actually generate energy from it instead of just letting it go away. So by being able to generate energy to make the waste treatment facility self-sufficient. In other words, we can generate this waste, produce methane gas, generate electricity, where they can be self-sufficient, probably taken off the grid, and to a bigger extent, as we get more material for the waste facility coming in, maybe get to the point where we can actually generate revenue by selling electricity back to IREA. So those are things I have in mind that I encourage you all to continue to support, if you will. And my last kind of words is to thank the city staff, amazing staff. They dedicate a lot of time and effort every day to make us comfortable in Woodland Park. And I appreciate their efforts and everything they do. I also thank each council member up there and the many volunteers that we have. God bless that we have so many volunteers that, I just thank them for their service to our community because I know what it means. I've done it for 3 years, and it does take a lot of effort. It does take a lot out of you. So thank you guys for being up there and doing what you do, and thanks to the many volunteers. So thank you for this award.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, we will move on. Appointment to the Woodland Park Planning Commission, and Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This evening, we have one vacant position open on the Planning Commission that was a result of Mr. Phil Miller, our new council member, being elected or appointed to council, left a vacancy on planning. So we have advertised for this position through Facebook, the website, Channel 10, the different ways the council has always requested us to do. And we have 3 applicants this evening that are interested in this position. I believe all 3 applicants are in the audience and are available for your questions.
Okay, great. Let's call them up one at a time. Okay.
Mayor, may I ask? Mayor,
Sorry.
do we want to sequester?
We will.
Okay.
We will. Should we call them up in the order that they applied?
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
and that order would be Paisley, Hartsfield, and Long.
Okay. Kip, will you take care of Mr. Long and Ms. Hartsfield? I'm sorry, Mr. Hartsfield. And we'll call up Robin Paisley.
And Mr. Mayor, before you begin the interview process, I would encourage you to think about the process that you want to go through for the selections, whether you want to do a secret ballot or an open vote. You might consider using the same process you used to select your most recent council appointee. That seemed to work very well. Pardon me?
Council?
Correct.
Council, thoughts? Paper ballot with our name on it?
I think so.
Yes.
Does that work for everybody?
Because there is a potential for a tie, should we do first, second, and third, an order of merit on our paper ballot?
It takes 4 of your votes to appoint someone.
First and second, might do it?
Yeah, first, let's just do a first. Why don't we, let's do this if we might. Let's just do your top choice, and we'll see how that falls out, and if we have to need to explore other options, we'll do that.
Is that good with everybody?
Sure.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let you say a few words if you'd like, and then we'll open the floor to council for questions.
Okay. Do I need to state my name and address?
If you would, please.
Robin Paisley, 301 West Gunnison Avenue. I got to share just a few weeks ago a lot about my heart for the city and my interest in what's happening here, so I won't go over all that again. But in my application, which was a little verbose as well, I just shared with you more about my business interests and my background in design and how that makes me interested in building here in our town and planning and the things that go into that, as well as just keeping our town beautiful. So whatever questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Council? Any questions?
What,
Mr. Carlson?
Yeah. What will make you a good planning commissioner?
Well, I think that I know how to take in information. I'm a quick learner. I have looked enough at what Miss Sally does on a regular basis, and that's a lot of information. So I don't expect that I'll be expected to memorize all of the codes, but to be able to understand them, read them, and apply them is what I think would be necessary, and I believe that I just have the intelligence and learning ability to participate in that way.
Well, Sally's memorized all the codes.
She's had 30 years.
She gets paid for that, too.
All right, thank you.
test. Bob, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to thank you for having applied for the council position before when it was vacant, and taking our advice that you participate in some of the lower level committees to get yourself familiar with the process. So welcome back, and I don't think I have any questions. I think we heard from you when you applied for the council position.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Robin, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, Noel.
What does the Planning Commission do?
The Planning Commission, I don't know if I have a great summarization of the definition, but I know that they overview zoning and development in the city, and consider changes in property, maybe if it's going to be conditional use property or mixed use, or I haven't been able to attend any of the Planning Commission meetings, but I watched them on the internet, which is an interesting thing to be able to do in our town. I went through the packets, and so I learned a little bit about what happens there, and being able to look over somebody's desire to take over a property and change maybe the use of it, or something like that, and consider that. Do you have another question that's more specific?
And why would a business have to come to planning?
Because there's zoning associated with every district in town, and so some of it's permitted and some of it's not, and so if they want to do something on their property that is not permitted, then there's a possibility that there's some conditions that are applicable there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Robin, I didn't ask you this question before, but I know that you're interested in signage in the community. What are your opinions now of our current sign ordinance?
I have to say that I don't know a lot about the current sign ordinance, so I don't have opinions that I can speak to. I can speak to my own opinions of some signs in town.
Well, let's put it in that context. What do you think of our signs?
I have noticed more bright and the digital signs going up, and as much as I think that they can, maybe be helpful to that business or organization they're associated with, they also can be distractions. The other day I was driving down a highway and the sign was brighter than the stoplight. I was like, oh my goodness. So I haven't read that ordinance. I don't know everything about it, but
No, I wouldn't expect you to, but I was kind of going towards what do you think of our signs, but
Okay.
yeah, I appreciate that response.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Did you spend any time with Sally prior to submitting your application?
I did. She and I chatted for a little bit. We've actually been working together on a project in town, and so I've met with her several times and learning about zoning and codes actually for that project. But I did ask her some questions and got her input on some things.
All right.
She's working with a project with the DDA.
Okay. Which one?
Anyone else, council? Robert, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your tenacity. We've seen you on a number of occasions. Clearly, you want to get more involved in our community. I know it will be a learning experience if you do indeed get appointed, but we appreciate you being a part of the community and look forward regardless of this outcome. So thank you for being here.
Thanks.
You bet. And Kip will take you away.
All right.
Mr. Hartsfield is next. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hartsfield is next.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you'll just state your name and your address for us, please.
Yes, Ken Hartsfield, 1151 Sundance Circle, Woodland Park.
Great. We'll give you the opportunity to say a few words if you'd like.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here tonight and the opportunity to apply for the Planning Commission. I do have a history of sitting on the Planning Commission for, I think it was 5 years. I unfortunately had to leave town and resign my position at that point. I've gone through a lot of the big issues in town. I was on the Planning Commission for Walmart, negotiations for some of the sign ordinances. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to complete that assignment or work on the comprehensive plan. And so I was out of town. My parents were, or in-laws were ill, so I left town, went to Pennsylvania for a couple of years, and came back and would like to get more involved in the city, and I think this is a great opportunity to continue that work.
Thank you. Council, questions for Mr. Hartsfield?
I served on Planning Commission with Ken. I would just say, I guess, thinking back on that, what's your, I guess, best memory or thing you learned the most that surprised you about Planning Commission?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to see what's going on in town and seeing the development and have input onto how those things come about. And so it was a learning process. Professionally, I'm an architect, and I've gone from planning commissions in other jurisdictions, and to see the process behind the scenes versus what's presented on the public certainly has been a worthwhile learning process for me in my profession, and conversely, I think it helps me understand how the Planning Commission makes their decisions and further on how the council makes their decisions.
Great. Thank you.
John?
I've known Ken for, roughly 10 years. He was the Habitat for Humanity architect for a number of those years, so he did good work for Habitat. Question I would like to ask you, though, what do you see over the next 3 to 5 years as challenges here in Woodland Park as we follow the comprehensive plan and try to control growth and maybe, in fact, build some affordable houses? What kinds of issues do you think you might be addressing on the Planning Commission?
Well, hopefully we're addressing the affordable housing issue. Working with Habitat, I understand the need to have that, and the prices in town, land values, make it difficult to build affordable housing in town. So I'd like to see those issues addressed and hopefully come to fruition, see some affordable housing. For the development of the downtown area, I know the Saddle Club property, the Woodland Station, we got movement on that finally, and glad to see that's going on. I'd like to see that developed in a reasonable way, and I think with the ordinances and zoning in place, if those are properly implemented, that we can see that development come through successfully and develop the downtown in a good manner. Of course, there's always the water issue as far as growth, and I know we had slow growth lately with the water issues, but hopefully as we continue to grow, well, not hopefully, but we will be impacted with maintaining the water supply and the water treatment and how to address those in the growth.
Okay. Thank you.
Ken, you were familiar with the old master plan for the city, and then while you were gone, we completed the work on a comprehensive plan.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to look at the new comprehensive plan, and what are your observations on that, if you have?
I haven't gotten into detail on it, but over looking at some of the comprehensive, the maps and the general development, I think there's a lot of good decisions, good work went into that, from what I can tell, and just developing that core area and maintaining the residential aspects in the outlying areas. I think we're moving in the right direction with all that.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Hartsfield, thank you very much for being here.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sequesters. I'm encouraged that my two colleagues are not bleeding.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
You just state your name and address for us to start.
My name is George Earl Long. Address is 1421 Crestview Way, Woodland Park, Colorado.
Great, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We're going to give you the opportunity to say a few words to begin if you would like to.
Well, I was disappointed that you dismissed the two of us. I was hoping to gain one from what my two colleagues were going to be subjected to. A few words. I handed out some copies of my resume, and if you looked at it, understand I didn't send it because three-page resumes don't get read as a general rule, but I hope that you scanned it. I've done a number of things in my life. In particular, taught school in this community, and I worked for the Teller County Sheriff as a posse member. In fact, until recently was chief of the posse. I'm interested in the community. I'm interested in how to advance our prospects here and the general well-being of the people that live in this community. And at some point, I've always wanted to get into the government side of what goes on in our lives, hence my application.
Great, thank you. Questions, council?
Hey, George, how are you?
Good, Noel. Yourself?
This resume is pretty heavy.
I already pointed that out, but thank you for making that observation.
What I did not know is the city manager base commander. You've been in Great Britain here, in Biloxi. So you have some vast experience with running a small city.
I do.
And so in those decisions of running the small city, you've dealt with zoning issues.
I have, and in particular, how to spend money, where to spend it, what to spend it on. The typical process on an air base is a group of 6 or 7 colonels who make up the senior leadership working for typically a flying wing commander, divide up the pie when it comes to budget. And at the end of the fiscal year, there's typically money left over. And the base commander almost always gets it. And he almost always spends it on roads and grounds, in particular repaving, or pavement repair and that kind of thing. That's what I did.
Bill's grinning.
So is Dan.
I'm sorry?
Our public works manager there was grinning.
You're smiling?
Yes.
Let's see.
You understand my world. Anybody else? Questions? Carol?
Yeah, I had one. Have you had an opportunity to look at the city comprehensive plan, and if you have, what are your observations?
I have not looked at it.
What do you think is the role of the Planning Commission?
I think it's to advise the city council with regard to the issues that affect the population of Woodland Park.
Anybody else? Ken?
You want to expand upon maybe what you think's the number 1 or 2 pressing issues for this city from your viewpoint?
Personal opinion? I would say the first is parking.
Really? Okay.
For large events, city market, farmers market, 4th of July celebration. I think I noted in my comments to you also that bear with me, I've got Parkinson's disease and I also have a short memory deficit that goes with it. But certainly affordable housing, I hear that everywhere I go with the posse. If I start talking with an individual who's new to town, they're concerned about that. Having taught in the Woodland Park system for several years, I'm also concerned about our kids. My perception is we got a great bunch of kids, and I don't think that's changed in the 5 years since I stopped teaching. And the reason I started is to find out what kind of kids we're producing. And I think ours are probably better than most. I supervise the school system in Great Britain as an installation commander there. So parking, affordable housing, excuse me, those would hit my list.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah. Our paths may have crossed when you were at Bentwaters Lake and Heath. I was at NATO headquarters at the time.
Were you?
Yeah. Anyway, I really am interested in this last job you had, substitute teaching, getting to know the kids, and you've formed an opinion of them. But did you have a sense of their view of the city, what's missing, and what we should be doing to make this a city that's welcoming to kids.
I often heard the comment that the school administration is somewhat out of touch at the teaching level, and without wishing to criticize the school administration, I at some points agreed with that. I heard it not only from students but from teachers. I also heard I won't call it a complaint, but the observation, not enough things in Woodland Park for kids to do. I have read and been told there's a high drug use rate amongst children or kids here. I suspect there's a correlation between the first two things and the drug use. Getting to know kids, the term substitute teacher is a misnomer. You don't do much teaching. What I tried to do is teach discipline. I put up with no issues as far as discipline. As I've said in my job description on Facebook, you have to balance response to kids between being Mother Teresa and a Marine drill sergeant, and you have to do it with considerable precision. Kids are great. They want discipline. They want responsibility. They want to know what's expected of them, and they want to know, and they need to know what's going to happen if they don't deliver what's expected of them. And that, to me, was the equation in the classroom. I often had to get order by screaming, not screaming, but being a drill sergeant, by barking at them. Just bark quiet, or silence. I often say silence in the ranks, and they'd look at me like, who is this guy? But I gained their respect, and they gained mine. And I also gained considerable respect for the teacher corps, with some exceptions, of course. The teacher corps is no different from any other entity. It has great people, it has some people in the middle, and it has some that need to go. And the sooner the better.
John? Yeah, full disclosure, I've known George for 10 years. What grades and subjects did you teach in school?
Well, as a sub, I taught third grade and up. I tried first and second grade in kindergarten. They wore me out. I mean, you're constantly busy. It's anything from tattling to have to go to the bathroom, but it never stops. And I'll tell you about the worst thing. The furniture in there was kiddie size, and including the teacher's chair, getting me into a kiddie chair or something else. I taught specifically, I like sixth grade best. Reason, they're still resilient, malleable, responsive. They like stories. They don't give you the stone face when you greet them in the hallway. I will tell you one story, and then I'll hush about my experience teaching. But I taught everything, from Rugrat PE to Rugrat music to physics or mathematics. By teaching, I mean I ran the classroom. When I had a problem that I needed assistance on in mathematics or physics, I'd ask one of the students. I'd have them teach the class. I taught or supervised the band operation at the middle school 3 or 4 times, and I have been known to sing a few times, but never played an instrument and don't read music well. So I would ask who wanted to be the maestro for the moment, and I would get a kid out of the orchestra to come up and conduct the orchestra. The only thing that suffered from that was my hearing. But the story was this. I had, on several occasions, told my 6th graders, I'll pinch your head off if you don't do what I tell you. They knew up immediately, as did the younger grades, that I was pulling their leg. It was a joke, but they understood. So as the school year advances and we get to the end of the year, the tension in the classroom goes up, logarithmically. The kids are ready to go home. They're finished. Can't wait to get out of there, and their energy is directed not at studies, it's learning, but when they can get out of the door. And I understood that. So I told the class one day, I'm going to, for one kid, I'll pinch off your head. And he shook his head, and he didn't believe me. So at lunchtime, I went home, got 2 heads of cabbage and a laundry bag, dumped a bottle of ketchup in it, took it back to the middle school, and went down the hall swinging it. And I had a crowd like the Pied Piper right behind me. Went in my classroom, and all the kids filed in and sat down, and they were all very quiet. And one intrepid little boy finally said, "Mr. Long, what's in that bag?" I said, "Heads." And he said, "Can we see them?" And I said, "Sure." And I upended it into the trash can, and I lost control right then. Not that I ever had very much for the rest of the day. But to me, teaching was a delight. It's the best job I ever had. I quit because of the Parkinson's thing. I didn't think I needed to stand in front of a group of kids and stutter and shake. They don't need that. I would have lost effect, and kind of broke my heart. But that's the way it is. In any case, I hope I answered your question with my long soliloquy there on what I had to say.
Anybody else?
George, Planning Commission is an extremely important commission here, and Sally will back me up, right, Sally? That's right.
Sally, would you back me up if I get selected?
Based on your resume, you have knowledge in everything, and really, planning is about zoning and putting the right businesses in our town and making sure that they abide by our ordinances and codes. I see here that if it was, it would take you probably 10 minutes to learn all the zoning laws, wouldn't it?
Probably.
Okay.
I piloted a shooting range in El Paso County through the Planning Commission and the county commissioners some years ago.
Would you feel up for the task if you were nominated?
Yes.
That's all I need to know.
My cognitive skills, never mind my speech and the shakes, are unaffected by Parkinson's thus far. As soon as it becomes apparent that it is effective, I will resign.
Thank you for that information. Thank you, George.
Anybody else? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
I'll go back and tell the others I didn't leave either. Thank you very much.
Take the cabbage chips.
And the ketchup with you.
Council, is it your pleasure to deliberate with the three applicants in the planning conference room, or would you like them back out?
It would be mine. Keep them sequestered while we chat?
Yeah, let's chat.
Okay. Thanks, Kid.
And then also I would, to answer the question of the potential for a tie vote, if the vote is a 3-2-2, then I would suggest to council that you vote on the two candidates that received the 2 votes each, break that tie, and then that winner goes against the person who got 3 votes, and then you can ultimately make your decision. If that's acceptable, we can move forward in that way.
Everybody good with that?
Okay.
Yep. Mr. Miller, why don't you start the discussion?
Sure. As you might find predictable, I always look to experience. And although everyone has good interests and compassion and passion for the position, I look to Mr. Hartsfield, his prior experience on planning, as well as his background as an architect, as serious pluses for me.
I have to agree with that, too. I worked with Ken for a short time on Planning Commission, and it was during the period where we were reviewing the sign ordinance. Neil and I just had a brief discussion about how do we bring in new blood to these commissions and councils, and I want to do that, but I also think that Ken brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, and I don't want to lose that. If he's come back with that passion after being out of town for a couple of years, I respect that, and so I would recommend that we select Ken Hartsfield.
Go ahead, Ken.
I would echo the same thing that Carol said, because I served with Ken too for quite a while, and although I agree, getting some new blood on council or planning commission or any of our boards would be great, and I think the others could be great. It's just hard to overlook the experience and what that can bring to planning commission, so I will probably lean that way as well.
No?
Well, the discussion here is experience, and the person with the most experience is Mr. Long. He's actually run 2 bases, so he has experience. The experience that I look at Ken is he understands the zoning, but he's lived in this town, and he's gone through the Walmart, so when you say fresh blood, we have fresh blood. We have a fresh candidate with experience that is incredible. I mean, mean, he's done more than a lot of us will ever do in a lifetime in 2 or 3 years in some cases. So I'm looking at Mr. Long to be on planning.
John?
I like Hartsfield's experience. George is a fine man.
He is.
Yeah. And as I said, I've known him for a number of years. I think Ken has got a significantly better background.
Bob?
Yeah, well, of course, it's the experience versus the passion, I guess. And I did appreciate Robin's passion for getting involved. We didn't quite get onto council, but we got selected the more experienced person for that. It seems to be always expecting them, getting the more experienced person as opposed to some fresh blood. But I think kind of mine's made up now. So, but I would still go with Robin. So
great. I hate to be contrary. I think it's important for our community to get new blood, as it were. I think we have a very strong planning commission right now, and I think Ms. Pasley could fit in nicely without any experience and learn from the others on planning commission. I get the fact that certainly the other two have more experience. And I speak from one of no experience, if you will, because I'm sitting in this seat for 10 months and had no prior experience. And so...
But you're old.
You always depend on the mayor pro tem.
That's my pal, the mayor pro tem. But, and so I would lean towards Robin Pasley. I love her tenacity, like I said, and love her coming back. Big picture, I'm just thrilled that we've got 3 great candidates again. And we're very, very fortunate. And hopefully the 2 that don't get selected, we can figure a way out to keep them involved in our community. But I appreciate everyone's comments, and if there are no more, then we'll hand out the ballots.
And we'll ask the applicants to return at this point.
Thank you.
And I'll read the results into the record. Levy votes for Pasley. Harvey votes for Hartsfield. Carlson votes for Pasley. Matthews votes for Hartsfield. Mella votes for Hartsfield. Sawyer votes for Long. And Schaefer votes for Long. We have a 3-2-2 tie.
It's just what he said.
And so, council, at this point, we will be taking a runoff between Long and Pasley. Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
How did you know?
How did I know what?
3-2-2.
Oh, well, the options were not that many.
That's part of his job.
And to be clear, this is to become the person to compete with the others.
That's correct.
Ms. Pasley and Colonel Long.
Correct. And then that winner will compete with Hartsfield. Okay. So to determine who competes against Hartsfield, Levy votes for Pasley, Harvey votes for Pasley. Carlson votes for Pasley. Matthews votes for Pasley. Mella votes for Long. Sawyer votes for Long. Schaefer votes for Long. So in that, then Ms. Pasley will compete against Mr. Hartsfield. Thank you. Levy votes for Pasley. Harvey votes for Hartsfield. Carlson votes for Pasley. Matthews votes for Hartsfield. Sawyer votes for Pasley. Mella votes for Hartsfield. And Schaefer votes for Hartsfield. Council, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If I'm not mistaken, that's a vote of 4-3.
It is for Mr. Hartsfield.
Congratulations, Mr. Hartsfield. Thank you very much. You all were not in the room when we commented. We really appreciate, first and foremost, you being here. 3 tremendous candidates, as witnessed from the vote, a very difficult decision. And Robin's heard this before on more than one occasion. We encourage you all to continue supporting our community and being a part of the process. We love that you're here. We don't often get 3 people vying for one job, if you will. So please don't be discouraged. We'd love to have you participate in any way you can, and thanks for being here. Mr. Hartsfield, I think that Suzanne is going to, yes or no?
I would like a motion from the council
Okay,
to appoint.
sounds good. We have a motion?
Move to approve Ken Hartsfield as a new member of the commission.
Suzanne?
Thank you. Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Mella?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. If Mr. Hartsfield will join me at the podium, I will swear you in.
While he's moving to the podium, Suzanne reminded me that we do have a vacancy on the Board of Adjustment.
Sir, raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I,
State your name.
Ken Hartsfield,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and
and
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances
the charter and ordinances
of the city of Woodland Park,
of the city of Woodland Park,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of Planning Commissioner
of the office of Planning Commissioner
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here and then right underneath. Looks like Sally has a present for you already. Here you go, sir.
Congratulations. That's one thing Sally didn't say. She just gives you homework. Says, see you Thursday. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move forward to proclamation in support of the Mountain Top Cycling Club Ride of Silence, and Miss Maresca.
She's not here.
She's not here, so Suzanne, do you have a copy of that?
I do. Shall I share it with you?
Why don't you go ahead and read it if you like.
Okay, I will. This is a proclamation for the Mountain Top Cycling Club Ride of Silence to take place on May 20th, 2015. Whereas what began as a one-time event in 2003 to honor a fallen bicyclist is now an international phenomenon occurring around the globe, and whereas the Ride of Silence is a silent, slow-paced bicycle ride to honor those who have been injured or killed while cycling on public roadways, and whereas composed of many but riding as one, the Ride of Silence is a quiet call to the public announcing that bicycle safety is the responsibility of all users of public roads, and whereas the City of Woodland Park is committed to providing a safe bicycle environment and proudly supports the Ride of Silence. And then we'll give you this part to read, Mayor.
Now therefore, I, Neil Levy, Mayor of the City of Woodland Park, do hereby recognize the Ride of Silence as an event to remind all citizens to recognize that bicycles belong on public roadways, and ask motorists to commit to safely sharing our roadways with cyclists, and to ask cyclists to commit to safety sharing our roadways with motorists. Thank you very much. Okay. We are very fortunate, pleased to have the CDOT Region 2 manager here tonight, Ms. Karen Rowe, who asked to come forward and chat with us about US Highway 24 and the closure protocols. Welcome, Karen. While Karen's coming up, I'll just say this. She's been part of the process in terms of being the regional manager for about a year now. And one of her priorities, I would guess one of her main priorities, has been communication, which we know that CDOT and all of us struggle with on occasion. So in that regard, she's here tonight to help us understand, and we'll probably open it up to a couple of questions after her presentation. Thanks again for being here, Karen.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. This is pretty good timing with the weather we're having. The rainy season has begun. The hail season, too, I hear, in Colorado Springs. I'm excited to be here and let you know that our closure protocols for 24 will be much better than they have been in the past, while still keeping the traveling public safe. Last year, we closed the pass at least 8 times. We sent people up to the pass area 33 times last year in anticipation that we might need to close it. We have hired a consulting engineering firm who has looked at, they specialize in drainage and debris flow from burn scars and things like that, and they've analyzed the past storms and the drainage capacity of the improvements that we've done. And they have said, you know, Waldo Canyon area was why we were doing a lot of precautionary closures last year, because we weren't done with the construction. So at Waldo Canyon, we had that, it was a 6-foot round culvert, and when the flood happened the one year, a whole bunch of debris came down, blocked that culvert, and the water just went up on the highway, and that's what caused the flooding on the highway. We have now increased that box culvert 10 times its size, with a 24 feet by 10 foot box culvert. We have constructed debris basins upstream from that culvert, meaning that if there are trees or mud that come down, they'll be captured by those basins up further. So we're not worried about the debris blocking that culvert and the water can flow through. So the flooding is not the concern that we have. I mean, there's always a chance that we'll get an amazing amount of rain and something may flood, and there's other areas where the water may flow onto the highway. However, that particular hazard we feel has been severely reduced. That has, you know, that we're not worried too much about the flooding on the highway. What we are worried about is what happened last year was a debris flow, which was between Cascade and Chipeta Park. And so that's kind of what we're anticipating a closure happening this year, but we're not doing any precautionary closures. So we're sending people up under certain conditions, meaning that we'll have 3 people that we send up to the area, and they'll patrol it and watch for debris flow and rock slides and things like that. And if they see something coming, then they will go to the gate closure areas and close the gates and close the highway and alert all the communications that the highway is closing down and why it's closing. So we've also installed a gate system, 10 different gates at 3 locations, Cave of the Winds, Cascade, and Green Mountain Falls. And so when that closure happens, they'll go there and close the gates down. And we have cameras in place and things like that. So, you know, if this were to have happened last year, I think we just had 1 debris flow that happened last year. And we have catch basins. When the debris flow comes, it goes into the basin, and it takes some time before it gets up on the highway. So that's where we do anticipate that we'd have some time to see the debris flow coming and have time to get to the gates and shut down the traffic. We'll make sure all the traffic's out of there before we close the gates. So I mainly wanted to come and share our new protocol for the closure and make sure that you understand we're still looking out for the traveling public. We think we've done our due diligence to minimize the risks for the traveling public, knowing that there's always hazards we're not aware of that may come up, but we think this is a prudent measure, yet keeps your businesses open and keeps your residents being able to come home in the evenings. So with that, that's a brief overview of the measures we're taking.
Can I ask? Oh, go ahead.
Can we ask questions then?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, the debris flow you anticipate is going to be where the medical marijuana place is.
Yes, we call it 4.C.
So when you close off the barrier at the North Pole and at Chipeta Park, we still allow cars to go on the back roads in through Chipeta Park around the debris flow because it's on the other side of the street.
Yes, when we put that closure in place, and I don't have all of my staff here and all of my maintenance people, but I do have our frequently asked questions. So yes, we will allow traffic to go on the frontage road there, yes, around Chipeta Park when the debris flow hits. However, yes, and so we have to be careful though because we do have to close traffic at Cave of the Winds also.
Even if the debris is only affecting that one little stretch beyond the North Pole?
I think after, initially we'll close it there to make sure that there's no debris in other areas, and then at some point, it depends on how long we expect the debris flow to be clean, and so if it's going to be a while, then we'll probably open it up the side roads, but otherwise, initially we'll shut down all roads until we know how long it'll be to be cleared, and then we'll put the detour in place.
Ken?
Not to make light of your efforts, but now that we clearly understand what and how the gates will be used, is it fair to say that we can no longer refer to Woodland Park as a gated community?
Funny.
Sorry for that.
Yeah. Ken, I've got a question for you. We've had a rain event the last couple of days, and we haven't had to close the road. That, to me, is a great sign. Relative to debris that you see, we're almost 3 years removed from Waldo Canyon. What does it look like relative to, say, a year or two ago? Can you speak to that? Do we have as much, I guess? Is it as big? I mean, I'm sure you're not just standing down there watching, but I'm sure you have some input there.
Yeah, and I have heard the conversations from the engineers. There's quite a bit still upstream in the drainage areas, and it's slowly coming down, slowly moving down. So there's certain areas that are more of a concern upstream than others, and so they try to watch any big movement of that debris upstream. I don't think there's as many trees and things like that, but we do have, in the Waldo Canyon area, we do have a net, a debris net, that'll capture some of those trees and things like that that come through that area. But mainly it's the rocks that I understand in the Poor Point C area, which is by the pot shop, that there's a whole bunch of sand that's kind of coming down through there. That'll be hard for the vegetation to take hold.
The other question is just relative to communication. If you're going to close the road, and I get Nixle or whatever, like a number of us do, how am I going to be notified? And how soon prior or after the road closure? Can you speak to that?
We're hoping to have very timely communications. We do have, so as soon as we know that there's a debris flow, we will be contacting our command center up in Golden, and they'll be sending out, they'll be putting signs on the ITS systems, the variable message signs on the Interstate and 24. And then we do have an alert system. It's called the Governor Delivery System, and it's on our website. And you can receive texts and emails through that. And so, again, as soon as we close it and as soon as we open it, we send out messages. So that's at dot.gov, and that's to subscribe to this. We have a special checkbox that's for UPass, and then you click on the Travel Center in the upper left-hand corner, they said, and then you subscribe to CDOT updates and alerts. And I use it. You can subscribe also to like traffic alerts between Colorado Springs and Denver, or for Southeast Colorado, and you can sign up for either like traffic alerts or news or those kind of things. But for traffic alerts, I get the direct emails from my staff saying, oh, by the way, the interstate's closed. And then I get the public information system, this Governor Delivery System emails that say, by the way, I-25 is closed. And it's amazing to me how quickly they're one right after the other. That usually comes up.
What's the possibility of having those alerts sent to local media outlets? I make that trip every day, and there have been times when I get to Cave of the Winds, and I'd like to know what the condition of the road is, but I'm not going to be looking at my phone.
Right.
I shouldn't be looking at my phone.
Right.
But I do keep the local radio station on. Is it possible for those alerts to go to the local radio stations?
They do, and we do send out press releases to them, notifications. However, we're not in control as to how they announce it or when they announce it. So we had heard that the media a lot of times were announcing that the road was closed, but they weren't always announcing that the road was open. And I don't know whether they didn't receive the notice that the road was open or if they just weren't communicating that the road was open.
It's
so
possible.
We'll do our best to talk to them.
One of the other questions I had, you talked about deploying three of your personnel when you think an event might occur. What's the trigger for them to deploy?
When there's a severe storm warning over the burn scar.
Warning? Warning?
Yes, and I know there's different terminology. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. It is when a flash flood warning is forecasted by the National Weather Service over the burn scar area. Okay. So again, like today, there was just hail in Colorado Springs. So again, it wasn't over the burn scar area. And I know the National Weather Service says sometimes storm clouds just form right over the burn scar area. You know what I mean? They don't come there, they just form there. And then we also found that over a certain duration of time of rainstorms, like the last time the debris event happened, and it gets to kind of your question of where is the debris, how much, is that if there's continuous rain for long periods of time, well, relatively long periods of time, over 5 days, then sometimes that will accumulate enough water to have that debris flow. So we have measurement on the gauges that we're using, and when the cumulative measurement of rain hits on those gauges is when we send people.
Where are the gauges?
We have 5 different locations for the rain gauges.
Williams Canyon, Waldo Canyon.
I can find out what they are exactly. I have them on my maps, but I don't have the exact locations.
Is that rain gauge information available online?
It is. It's on our website. So we do have a website for this also. Mainly if you go to the co.dot.org and put in Ute Pass, then our website comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I apologize. I didn't bring my entourage, who knows a lot more of this
No, thank
detail.
you.
So
Been
it's
very
good. This is
helpful.
good practice. You guys are my first ones coming out and talking about it. And again, I just know at a high level that they know where the rain gauges are. The National Weather Service is watching those rain gauges. We're monitoring it, and we're working very closely together to make sure when it hits those thresholds that we send people up. Chief?
I was wondering if you have any changes to the way local and county law enforcement will be notified.
Yes, we do have protocol measures in place, and we have a notification system for them, and we've been testing it out. And then we'll be meeting with them. And State Patrol, one step that I didn't mention is that State Patrol will be sent out as soon as those alerts happen first, before our 3 people are able to get up there. And we'll be coordinating with them on this protocol and the measures taken.
Thank you.
And so that's how we will initially get the word, is that way, and then we have the ability to get things onto Nixle, and so that time is really very short. I think the protocols will be extremely beneficial for the community to understand, but don't take that as a false sense of security that there's no issue still in the burn scar area. The storms that we had over the last couple of years have been very isolated, and in those areas a lot of the debris is gone, but in many other areas the debris still exists. So it's going to be a long time, but this is extremely reasonable. Our citizens should feel very comfortable that their best interests are being taken care of, both from a safety perspective and the ability to move up and down the corridor. So thank you, Karen. Who else are you going to be visiting up here in this neck of the woods?
Next Wednesday morning, I'll be bringing my maintenance not superintendent, but operations person who's in charge of this protocol Wednesday morning to the Chamber of Commerce meeting at 7:30 a.m. And so he is able to answer a little bit more specifically. Yes?
Can we ask you questions beyond the scope of...
Let's stick with this first, and then we'll get back to that.
Okay, so we can do that later then.
You mentioned 10 gates. These are all manually operated?
Yes.
What's the size of a typical gate? And what triggers it? Who triggers whoever's there to operate the gate? What tells him or her to close the gate?
Well, there's 3 people, and so one will be down by Cave of the Winds, and one will be up by Green Mountain Falls, and then someone else is driving around checking the road. And so if they see debris coming, they will notify the others by radio and tell them to start closing the gates, or making sure the vehicles come through and be closing. They'll close the gates and then make sure the vehicles are out of the area.
And what is the size of a gate?
I don't have the exact size of the gate. It'll block the road, though.
I mean, one man or one individual can handle it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we have mechanical devices to lower the gates, and in fact, you kind of have those electric drills that you put in, and it cranks it really fast to bring them down. So,
how does that go again?
Sorry. So I would like to go up and see how it actually happens, but that's what they've told me, is that, yes, we manually have to close the gate. You don't press a button and the gate goes down, but they said they do have drill devices that help them close it very quickly.
Okay. Anything else relative to Highway 24? Just one last question. The communication process relative to reopening,
Yes.
what would that look like? Same thing, I'm
Pretty
sure.
similar. I mean, that we will have notifications, let the media know. We'll try to be working with the media to say, please make sure that when the highway's open, that's as important when the highway's closed. And we'll put it up on the variable message lines, too, on the highways.
The difference being, I'm just guessing, when you close the road, you don't have as much notice as when you open the road. That may be right or wrong. Could the argument be made, 15 minutes before you open the road that it's going to be open? And could you let people know,
sooner, if you will?
I will get that question answered by next Wednesday, and I'll get back to you on that. But I do know that when the debris flow happens, they'll look at how big it is, and they do have equipment also staged at certain areas that can respond to clear the flow, but they'll probably give us a rough estimate of how much time they think it would take to clear that debris. I'm not sure how much we'll communicate that with the public until we get closer, and also know that there's not more coming, once we get it cleared. So I think we want to make sure to give them some estimate of time in terms of, is it going to be more than 4 hours before the road's open or not, but we're careful of that, because if it does take longer, then people get frustrated and angry if for some reason it does take longer than we anticipated to do that.
Thank you.
Before we leave that, Mayor, it's my understanding that there's some cameras in the Ute Pass area. I think, Bill, you've got that.
As part of their gate program, they also install cameras, and those cameras are up and working and online, and you can access them through coloradotrip.org and the devices, and just like other traffic cams, so you can look at the cameras that are right there in the pass near those gates. They're up and operational and on the web.
What would the camera show me? Debris on the road? Or?
It'll show you the highway. Of course, it'll show you if there's traffic on the highway. It could show you if the gate's closed. But there's 2 active locations that the cameras are on, and so it's just another information point that's available. So it's nice that they've accessed those cameras to the public.
Anything else on this particular issue before we move forward? And then Bob, go ahead.
I just wanted to make this brief, but you're here and
yes.
You don't get to see that face to face too often.
No, it's okay.
Just want to reiterate, the city has kind of 3 issues with CDOT, or 2. One is the speed limit through town, which you're probably very familiar with, and another one recently is we've had a lot of people running red lights up here. And I understand you're in control of the red lights along 24, but we as a city are trying to do something to reduce the number of red light runners. So hopefully you can be in touch with the city manager as to maybe some solutions on that, but it is rather urgent. As far as speed, we understand the need for people to get from the western slope or the Park County, etc., back to the Springs, and it's we are reluctant to slow people down going through town. My personal idea would be just bring us down to 25 for those 2 little blocks, and then up to 60 from Walmart all the way down to Cascade, because that's the stretch of highway that the highway patrol loves to get us on. Because everybody, you're supposed to do a study, and whatever 80% of the traffic is going at, that should be kind of like the speed limit, from what I understand of your procedures. And I'm pretty sure that most of them are going at least 60. So if you could look into that, I'd appreciate it. And that way they'd get down to the Springs a lot faster, even if they have to slow down and go through the city. Thank you.
Hey Bob, I think you missed it. CDOT is digging a tunnel underneath Woodland Park to reroute the traffic.
I missed that.
You missed that.
April 4th.
Anything else, Council?
I wanted to let you know the patrol's already working with us on traffic enforcement and the red light problem.
Oh, good.
For a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we understand that the enforcement isn't your issue. The signals are, but we have been working very closely with State Patrol, Teller County, and our own police department to increase enforcement of red lights.
And the signal control folks have looked at the delay cycles and adjusted those to do. They were looking at that before that accident even happened. They've worked with us real well on the signals. So compliments to them for all the work that they have done with us. Very cooperative.
Oh, good.
Team. So
good.
Same thing with the maintenance folks.
And same thing with Karis Bible College and the adjustment that was made out there at lunchtime. It's made about a 10 or 15 minute improvement. So thanks again for that.
Okay.
I think that's it, Karen. I really appreciate your time.
Well, and again, I didn't come totally prepared with everybody with me to answer all the questions, but if you ever do want to have me come up and talk about a particular subject, I can bring my staff that can provide more details. Also, I am, like you said, in the communication effort, I'm setting up meetings with Woodland Park staff every, like 3 months or so. So I've met with them once, and again, I bring our maintenance and our traffic people, and we talk about these issues and try to answer questions and do some follow-up items. And we have another meeting set up in June. So, I'm committed to continually working with the city on various issues. The one thing I will say is, I know the speed limit issue that you'd like to see reduced. There's reasons from a traffic engineering for us traveling public reason why we can't lower that speed limit right now. However, we understand that the pedestrian safety is a big concern, and so we are installing what's called a HAWK system, and it'll be installed by the fall. It'll be installed by October is our goal, and it's kind of a hard stop for pedestrians. So instead of just the flashing light and the little crosswalk for people to go across, this will actually have a red light going across and stop traffic for pedestrians to go across the road. So we are listening to you. We're trying to find solutions to issues that you have that are in compliance with our general guidelines and policy. So that's one of the improvements that you'll see coming up.
Any chance on a speed study for the rest of the 24 from Woodland Park to Cascade?
Possibility we could do a speed study there. Yeah, it is interesting. Sometimes people think posted speeds really affect the driver behavior, and sometimes they might, but sometimes they don't. So we did increase the speed, on 24 from the interstate to Manitou, and we recently redid the speed study there, and they're going the same speed they were before. So even though we raised the speed limit, people thought, well, then they'll all go faster because it's at 55, so they're going to be going 65. But we found, no, they were going as fast, if not slower, than what they were going before we raised the speed limit. So if that's a new area for me, I'm not a traffic engineer in my background, but speed studies are a complicated issue in setting speed limits. But again, it's set to 30 right now, and we'll see what other things we can do to work with you to make this safe going through town.
Karen, thanks again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And you guys asked some good questions, so I got some homework to do. Try and find out what those 5 rain gauges are. I've seen them on a map, but I don't know the exact names of all the locations. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. And I know that our next guest has been here all day, because I saw him at 7:30 this morning. Craig Casper from PPACG, and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm glad to be here. I don't know how I get this one.
Are the projectors on?
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm here to talk about our non-motorized plan, which is one mode of the regional transportation plan that PPACG is responsible for developing. We also do the specialized transit plan, the regular transit plan. We do a safety analysis, we do congestion study, and we do the forecast maintenance conditions, all on a long-range basis out to 2040. Woodland Park was one of the partners. We're trying to be more collaborative when we develop our plans, and Woodland Park was one of the partners that we teamed with, along with Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and the Trails and Open Space Coalition, to more efficiently develop our regional plan. The idea was we'll develop our regional plan and then work with City of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and Woodland Parks to develop the local plans that directly interface with the regional plan. The 5 goals and objectives that we came up with working as a regional basis was to establish, you can read them, the continuous coordinated non-motorized network, reducing the number of crashes. El Paso County has the dubious distinction of having the most pedestrian accidents and fatalities in the state of Colorado. In fact, I think it's 2013, they had as much as the rest of the Front Range combined. So we're working pretty closely with them. There's distracted driving and distracted walking, and the two are a pretty nasty combination. as we're finding out. Encourage more traffic safety education. You were just hearing about the speed downtown. Promote more awareness. We have some of the best weather in the country for non-motorized travel, but the share of that travel isn't as great as it could be, so trying to find ways to get more people out and then create the environment that make people want to do that. This shows the partners that we developed. We have the regional plan, and then Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and Woodland Park each have sub-plans. This is the Pikes Peak area. One of the questions that we get often is, what exactly is the Pikes Peak area? And it's a amalgam of areas that are census designated to urban and then will become urban in the period of our long-range plan. And you can see that this dark color is what is urban now, and this area here is what's forecast to become urban. That is the region that we are responsible for developing the transportation plan. And at this point, I will turn it over to the expert who actually worked on the plan, because I didn't.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Lindsay. I'm a transportation planner at the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And like Craig said, I've been working on this plan for the last 2 years, so we're excited that we finally have a draft out for you all to take a look at and get your input. So this, like I said, was a 2-year process, and it's involved a lot of different stakeholder groups from the general public via websites, different series of meetings. We have a stakeholder task force, which is representatives from a bunch of different advocacy groups, from education to trails to safety. We had around 45 people participate on that task force. The technical task force is made up of the SALIs of the jurisdictions, and they participated in letting us know, what is feasible, what looks good, what doesn't look good, from the very first day. And also on that, I guess some of the technical task force members were also on the project management team. Like Craig said, this is a really big collaborative process that we did with the city of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and Woodland Park. So representatives from each of those entities took part in managing the project from the beginning. And then, as all PVACG plans go through the Community Advisory Committee, the Transportation Advisory Committee, and to the board. And so, talking with stakeholders, we heard a couple of key themes that probably won't surprise you. To focus on connectivity, to standardize the infrastructure across the region, to develop a regional wayfinding system, the usual comp plan, long-range stuff, to develop that strategy and how we can connect the region better. And we have a massive existing conditions report on the project website, which you can check out if you have time to read 600 pages. But this is the Cliff Notes version of what we found. So there was an extensive site audit that covered all the way up here in Woodland Park, all the way out to Calhoun in El Paso County. So it was very labor intensive, and we got a lot of good data out of it. So we discovered that there are a lot of small pockets that are really conducive to non-motorized transportation, but there are a lot of motorized barriers that keep people in those little pockets. Like Craig said, we have a great culture that exists for cycling and walking and amazing weather for it, so we're lucky to have that. We have a lot of good examples of trails that we can build off of, the Pikes Peak Greenway / Front Range Trail, which has several names along the whole corridor. But that's a great example of the kind of connectivity that we can provide across the region. We heard a lot more so from the city folks down in Colorado Springs. There's a disconnect between the on and off street system, which is a barrier for people when you're using it for utility purposes like transportation. Lack of east-west connectivity was another thing that we heard a lot from the general public, that the Front Range Trail is great, you can move from north to south, but it's really hard to move from east to west, even if you're going from Manitou to the city. The sidewalk condition, obviously this is a non-motorized plan, so it includes pedestrians as well. And some areas of the city, of the region are great, they have wonderful downtown sidewalks, others are not so great. And the condition and or presence really varies across the region. So what we did was develop a network of 71 regional improvement corridors using the data we gathered, both online from the public and during our extensive network audit. And we worked with those 71 corridors to prioritize them and to get our top 11, which made it a little bit more manageable. And from that process, we came up with these 11 corridors, which you can also see on our project website, walkbikeconnect.org, in a little bit more detail. You can zoom in and see kind of where they really are and what streets and trails they might connect to. And specifically, the corridor and route that I'm sure you all are most interested in is that Route 35 that goes from the city of Manitou Springs all the way up to the city of Woodland Park. And in the draft plan, you can see some recommended improvements and how it connects with existing trail systems and how it even connects with on-street systems once it gets down closer into the city and once it gets up into Woodland Park. And like I said, there's a lot of documentation on that project website. From the existing conditions report to each individual corridor report for all the 71 different corridors. We did a peer city review. We also produced a design standard toolkit to help some of the smaller entities that want to know about best practices in non-motorized transportation planning. And we developed a wayfinding report, which is really that signage, and it makes everything a little bit friendlier and easier to use from a user's perspective. And then we also produced an economic impact report about cycling. And I will let Craig talk about that because this is his specialty.
Briefly, we looked at the economic impacts of non-motorized travel and the potential. Most of our plan, all but of our plan except the economic impacts report, is transportation-based, people that are traveling for a purpose. This looked at also possible of recreational development, mountain bike courses or the Ring the Peak type thing, and we found that we have tremendous opportunity. We have put, I guess, world-class potential for recreational non-motorized system. The analysis we did is pretty exhaustive, but as conservative, when presented with options of dollars to take, we always took the smallest one, and found out that for every dollar we invest in cycling in our region, we're looking at $1.80 to $2.70 in benefits. And we also, with the number of trips we have that are less than 5 miles that are walking or biking distance, there's a lot of growth potential in that. Our public comment period ends in just a couple of days for the non-motorized plan itself. However, with our regional plan, that will extend through July, so don't feel constrained to provide any other comments also. But then there's a UPass Trail meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks at Centennial Hall.
Yeah, just a quick plug for El Paso County Parks. They're actually working on implementing, part of the UPass Trail, and they're having a planning meeting coming up, so you should participate if you're really curious about that specific corridor. And now we could take questions.
Well, ever since I moved here 10 years ago, I've heard that Woodland Park is on the trail from the East Coast to the West Coast. I always forget the name of that trail. But every time I come up the pass, I look at where the railway used to be, and then it gets to the point where 24 blasts apart. And every time I go by there, I say, well, could we put steps up here, or could we put a bridge across there? I am passionately interested in completing our section of that coast-to-coast trail, okay? And so my question to you is, when you did this regional study, did you look at the input from the next region over and the output to the next region over? Have you
Yes, we do make sure to coordinate that. We actually have two trails like that. We have the East-West Trail, we also have the North-South Front Range Trail. Right. So we've coordinated with all four, I guess, directions on doing that. And actually, I put a plug in for that El Paso County meeting on the 20th. They are taking steps to complete it. I don't recall the reasons, but some of that were the old rail trail. That isn't the preferred alignment for some of it.
From the map, it didn't look like it.
So it's more, I guess, at-grade type. So you can see it better on this alignment. But that we are committed to finishing that. It's our responsibility to get that built. So
with connections to both directions.
Exactly. And then ours ends at just past the hospital. That at to Divide is ultimately where we're trying to get it.
And we have signs along the way when it takes a turn this way or a turn that way that, hey, go that way.
And that's one of the most common, and probably the best investment we can make right now in our non-water system is a wayfinding, so people can, when they get someplace, they can, oh, here's how I keep going. That confidence they will be able to get from A to B is tremendous in getting more travel, so.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Great, we appreciate you being here all day. Thank you.
It's fun to come up here, so. I missed the last one, so.
Here's the silver lining. Okay. Moving forward to number 4F in the presentation, the comprehensive annual financial report. And Mr. Dingwell, welcome. Usually don't get up here this early.
That's true. Good evening, Mayor Levy and members of council. Good evening. You should have before you a copy of the 2014 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I will point out that at this point it is in draft form, although there will not be any changes to the numbers. And I have with me tonight to help me present Wendy Swanhorst from the firm of Swanhorst and Company. I asked Wendy before the meeting how long her firm has been doing the audit, and since auditing is an exact science, as is accounting, she told me with certainty that it was several years. So, without further ado, I will ask Wendy to come up and join me. Wendy will be going through the management letter, which will explain the auditing process and the findings. Afterwards, we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Depending on the complexity of your questions, we may have to take those away and come back to you at a later date with the answers. Wendy, my pleasure to introduce you.
Good evening. I'm Wendy Swanhorst. You guys have that draft copy of the financial statements, as Wally mentioned. We also, every year, give you what we call a management letter. That's also in draft form. I understand that did not get in your packet, but that's okay because I'll tell you what's in that letter, and I can tell you that pretty quickly. So, as Wally mentioned, if you have questions on the financials, we'll try to answer those. I usually defer the financial statement questions to him, but anything else I can certainly answer. So, essentially what I'm here to tell you is that we audited these financial statements. The numbers you see there come from your accounting records, and then you guys, as the governing board, hire us to tell you that those numbers are fairly stated in all material respects. And so if you look at the opinion that's in there, it's an unmodified or clean opinion, which simply means that we think those numbers are fairly stated. The other responsibility we have in the auditing standards is if we identify any significant deficiencies in the internal controls and your procedures and processes, those are the things we're required to tell you in that letter. We didn't find anything we think rises to that level where it's a significant deficiency. We did some adjustments to the accounting records. I would say the majority and largest of those were in the area of grants. And so we have recommended that you look at your processes surrounding those grants. I would say a lot of that is just some, Wally being new to your processes and stuff, maybe there was just not a complete understanding of how those grants worked. So I don't expect that to be an ongoing issue. But that was just one of the things we recommended in our management letter. We also this year did what we call a single audit, and that simply means anytime you get over $500,000 in federal money, we're required to do some additional audit procedures to make sure you comply with all the federal rules and regulations and that you have appropriate internal controls. So we did that audit too. You'll see some opinions at the back of that report, and that's what those relate to. A couple of financial things, just so you know, very high level, what we see when we look at the financial statements is your fund balance in your general fund dropped by about $780,000. That was in line with your budget. And the DDA this year had an abatement. You know, they get that property tax TIF revenue, and they had abatement in there, so they had less revenue than you expected. And as a result, they ended up with a negative cash number of $35,000, which the city covered for them, just so you're aware of that. And those are probably the just high level, the financial issues you see there. No concerns from any other perspective. Your utility funds are in good condition, and everything else looks pretty good. So that's my high-level summary. So if you have any questions, we'll try to answer those.
The abatement, yeah. What was that? What was the amount? How was that handled?
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, that was really driven by the assessor's office for Teller County. Several properties challenged the rate at which their property was taxed, and for reasons that I'm not aware of, the county did reduce their tax liability. That had a flow-through effect of reducing the amount of tax revenue that the city and all the other taxing entities within the Teller County region received.
From a historical perspective, the abatement process has always existed. It's never quite impacted us as much as it did this past year. We receive in August an estimate of what we think the property taxes are going to be for the next year, the revenue, and then it's finalized in December. But the abatement process even happens after that. So my recollection, it was about a $50,000 abatement process, which we had counted on that revenue, and it didn't materialize. So that's why the DDA was underfunded about $35,000. We fully expect to recover that in this year and in next year. I don't see it as a real issue, but in the audit, it will show that they had a negative fund balance.
Were those abatements then all, they were limited to DDA properties?
The ones that had an impact on the DDA's budget, yes, but there were certainly other abatements that occurred within the county.
Has that happened in prior years, David, and what's the magnitude relative to history?
You know, my recollection is it was in the thousands of dollars, not in the tens of thousands of dollars. There's a mechanism, is my recollection, to recover from that, but it would cause actually other taxpayers to pay more on their taxes to recover from that. And we as a municipality would have to apply to do that, and that's not something that we think we need to do. The DDA might consider something else, but we don't need to do that.
Yeah, I met with Wally beforehand and went over some numbers with him and stuff. So, but I understand the DDA fund is $215, and I couldn't find in the summary in here any numbers for account 215 like we do have for some other others. Was there a reason for leaving that out, or maybe you could show me the page?
They are there.
Okay.
You just have to look in the right place.
Just there. Okay.
You want us to search for those now, or would you like to do this?
Okay, I just didn't have time to follow up with Wally, and I'll take care of, we'll do that with him tomorrow.
If you look at pages 42 and 43, it's described as the component unit.
Right. 42 and 43, component unit. That was a lot of blanks, okay. Could we call that DDA component unit or something?
It is listed in the right-hand column. It says Downtown Development Authority. And by generally accepted accounting principles, it's a component unit. It's not the general fund.
Okay, so that's kind of the audit for the DDA. Correct. Then those figures. I know this is a dumb question, but on page 32, legal compliance, for the year ending 31 December 2014, the COP debt service fund expenditures exceeded the amounts budgeted by $74. This may be a violation of state statutes. What do we do to make that go away?
You know, $74, it seems sort of ridiculous, but, you know, the state statute says that anything the city spends, you guys have to approve that through the budget process. In this case, they spent $74 more than you budgeted. Certainly, we don't consider that a huge issue. But because that state law exists, then in the audit report, it's disclosed in here that they went over budget. Really no ramifications or anything like that, but the only way you could really get that to go away is that you guys approve a subsequent budget, which probably at this point in time, is it worth it for $74?
Okay.
Anything else?
Just, how do we compare to other cities that you've audited in terms of our financial management?
You know, your audits have always gone really well. You're a small government, and you have a pretty lean staff. You know, and as a result, you don't have a lot of segregation of duties. You don't have a lot of people reviewing what everyone's doing. So you might have a little more risk than a larger government that there could be errors in your financial statements. But we just have never seen that here. The audits have gone really well. Wally had to go through his first audit this year, and, you know, like I said, we had some adjustments, maybe more than we've had in the past, primarily related to grants, but really nothing that we would say is an indication of any problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Wally.
Thanks, Wally. Thank you very much.
Perhaps, Wendy, if you would just describe the next step now to what we do next to get council and everyone else the final version of the audited financials without the draft watermark on it.
Okay. Well, there's some documents in there that you probably look at, that management's discussion, and those statistical tables in the back that show 10 years worth of information. That's some information that Wally prepares, and so we haven't had a chance to review that yet. Once we review that, then we will finalize this document. And it's due to, you guys submit this to the trade organization, the Government Finance Officers Association, for their financial award. And so that will be submitted to them before, it's due by the end of June, so you'll have it to them in plenty of time. And then it's due to the state auditor by July 31st. So you're very, very timely in your reporting too, which a lot of other governments aren't quite as timely as you, so that's good.
Thanks very much. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Wendy.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5. I see no additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. So we'll move on to the consent calendar, and Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. We have an extensive consent calendar this evening. I will read through it, and the appropriate names are by the items. In case you have questions, the staff is available to answer those. So tonight we would like to approve the minutes of the April 16th regular meeting, the April 22nd special meeting. We would like to approve the contract with Golden Triangle Construction for the renovation of the fleet maintenance facility in the amount of $1,649,200. We would like you to approve the contract with Complete Concrete Incorporated for assorted concrete repairs in the amount of $28,175. We have a request for approval of the Memorial Park Pond Fisheries Fund State of Colorado Department of Natural Resources, Colorado Division of Parks and Wildlife sub-grant agreement in the amount of $40,000. We would like you to approve direction to the Finance Director to forward the CAFR to the State Auditor and the changes by July 31st, rather than within 30 days. We would like you to authorize the defense of the Carly lawsuit. We would like you to approve the contract with S&NS Enterprises LLC for the striping of Woodland Park City streets in the amount of $26,823.83. And we would like you to approve the intergovernmental contract agreement between the City of Woodland Park and the State of Colorado and DOLA in the amount of $874,733 for the construction of the Woodland Park Fleet Maintenance Facility.
Thank you, Suzanne. Questions, Council?
On item F, the change of within 30 days to by 31 July, why did we do that? Because
That's what is required under state law.
Okay. And then all of the expenses that have your name by them, Mr. Allsbach, are budgeted for, correct?
Correct. For the staff.
Bill, when are we going to do that striping, if it's approved?
The striping contract will be broken into two parts, because if you remember, previously awarded a contract for asphalt maintenance, and so the striping will start early summer here, and then once the chip seal work is done, then they'll remobilize and finish up striping. So it'll pretty much goes throughout the summer, June and July, and is always finished before school starts.
You have a busy summer, don't you?
I do.
And winter.
He loves it. And he loves it. Questions, council?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. Suzanne?
Thank you. Harvey.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Mella.
Yes.
Sawyer.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Suzanne. We'll move on. There is no unfinished business tonight and no ordinances on initial posting. So we'll move on to 9A and public hearings. Before we do that, let me make this announcement. Council members, use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us. Be assured that it is the common practice of this city council that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during public hearings. That said, we will move on to 9A, and Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This evening, we have an application from Wild Wings Levine Foods LLC, located at 1079 East Highway 24 for a beer and wine license. They have submitted their application, and the details of the application are as follows. The applicant is Paul Levine, and Paul is actually right there in the audience. Put your hand up, Paul, to answer any questions that you may have of him this evening. The LLC has current sales tax license and FEIN number. The applicants currently do not hold any other liquor licenses, and the location is eligible to be licensed. The possession of the property is documented by a lease expiring October 1st, 2019. The factual findings of this case are: the application was submitted on March 27th. The subject property was posted on April 24th. The public notice was published in the Courier-View on April 15th. The character of the application is not an issue for this hearing, and all the applicable fees have been paid. Upon the public hearing this evening, the staff would like to recommend that you approve this liquor license for beer and wine for Levine Foods, doing business as Wild Wings and Things.
Thank you, Suzanne. We have questions for Mr. Levine relative to his liquor license. If not, then we'll look for a motion. I'm sorry. Anybody else here like to speak? Mr. Levine, you have anything that you'd like to say? Feel free to come forward and state your name and address, and welcome.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be here. This was actually really interesting. I learned a lot tonight about a lot of different topics that are going around in this town, which will be great. So we plan to move around this area. I'm in Colorado Springs right now. I got to drive through the hailstorm today.
So did I.
Come down from Denver. I just want to, personally say that, from on our side, we're going to be, we intend to be very responsible vendors. I don't intend to cause any issues, within the town. And so what we're doing is, first of all, I had paid for the responsible vendor program. We just did the class a few days ago on Sunday, and that we learned a lot about good mechanisms and ideas on how to make sure that we're not over-intoxicating the public, or we're using good, we know the law very thoroughly, so that we're not subject to violations. And also great, they had really great tools for us, such as ID check guides and stuff like that, that I'm so glad we were able to take that class, because now I'll be able to order those and make sure that we're always, taking appropriate measures and checking IDs, etc. They had really great ideas about how we could make sure that we are always doing the right thing, such as separating alcohol into certain types of glasses, stuff like that. So, for instance, we have Coca-Cola glasses. Instead of ever serving alcohol within the Coca-Cola glasses, make sure we always have, separate glass that's specific to beer, etc. And so we've learned a lot just from that class alone, and then we also intend to take the tips classes whenever they're available and whenever my employees can get to them. Fortunately, I don't think there'll be one, within the next few. I think the next one's coming up in the next month. But that's why we did this responsible vendor program at the very least, which is, from my understanding, covers the majority of what TIPS does anyways, plus goes over Colorado law. So I wanted to make sure we did something to ensure that you guys were comfortable with moving forward with our license. And I just want to always make sure that I'm doing the right thing as as a citizen and as part of this community by through ownership in a business, at least at this point. And so I guess if there was no other questions or anything, that's really all I had to say about it.
Paul, the big question for me is, are you going to have a chicken, a live chicken, or just the mascot that you've got in front of the restaurant now?
I have actually personally been the chicken on the road. I don't know if you've seen the dancing, but a great majority of the time it's been me or actually even my wife. And she's a little bit more playful with it. She'll dance and all types of stuff. So if you see the one dancing, it's more likely her. We did recently get approved that have signs as well up there, which would be nice. I know there's some concern about that at times. I've had customers come to me with particular concerns that I guess historically have plagued the town, so to speak. and so much that it's been in statewide newspapers. But I'll try and be tasteful about it. And it's important to have that for our organization so that we can, draw people to our specific deals, which we have lots of, by the way, if you ever want to stop by. I'm trying to also, make our town serve individuals better in any capacity that I can, too. A lot of people have concerns about where they can take their children, for instance, to enjoy, like young toddlers, for things like toddler time, etc. Beyond just maybe the mechanisms that they have already available to them. One thing we followed is kind of, not to promote another company, was we looked at something like Chick-fil-A and their model, and we are actually, for instance, this Wednesday going to have our first kind of Kids Gone Wild event where we have parents and toddlers try and come in. We'll have bouncy house, we'll have kids programming from 11 to 2, and we'll have crafts, just like kind of you see sometimes in Chick-fil-A where they can put together, they can draw, they can put together different crafts, etc. So the idea, really for me, I know historically there's a lot of input about how I should run my business. There's a lot of people who have ideas about where it should go going forward. For me personally, my vision is one that's it's a family-driven, oriented business. So, and that ties into the liquor, and that also I don't plan on being another bar. I'm sure you have plenty of them within this region, and I don't intend to be that type of institution. I prefer to be a family place. I'm trying to expand on how I can serve families and give them an outlet for entertainment. Whether it be that amazing chalkboard wall in the back end, whether it be the Pac-Man system we have that's for free, or whether it be this new event that we're going to start on Wednesdays for mothers and their toddlers. I think it's, for me, it's about expanding options for everybody. Beer is kind of just a means of provide an option for somebody to relax a little bit while they're watching a game and have wings on top of it. But we don't intend to send people out of our institution inappropriately, or in other words, in some sort of an intoxicated manner. So even in that regards, we're going to have mechanisms, that staff follow, such as limitations on the amount of beer we're serving, etc. And then, of course, we will follow the basic guidelines put out by TIPS, etc., so that we make sure that people aren't leaving our institution and putting people in danger on the roads. I was in the military for 11 and a half years, and I know one of the saddest things for me was you got back from nearly being killed every day of your life, and some guy goes on the road and then dies in a DUI accident, and you think, why? That was senseless, so. In that regard, we definitely intend to be very responsible vendors.
Great. Thank you very much, Paul. Any other questions? Council? John?
I was going to ask him if he's old enough to drink. After 11 years in the military, I guess you are.
Yes, sir.
So, good luck.
Thank you. Absolutely. Good luck. Anybody else?
Thank you, Paul, for keeping the Wild Wings open. You see me there quite often. I love chicken wings. So thank you for keeping that establishment open, and good luck.
Yeah, and we definitely have, it seems like a fan base at this point, and that's why, I definitely want to keep that. I definitely want to keep that fan base, maybe just expand it a little bit. But other than that,
Great. Any questions from the audience for Mr. Levine? Is it Levine or Levine?
It's Levine.
Levine, thank you. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Good. All right, Council, we'll
Motion to approve.
motion.
Motion to approve liquor application for Paul Levine at Levine Foods LLC to grant a beer and wine liquor license for Wild Wings and Things located at 1079 East Highway 24, Woodland Park, Colorado.
Second. Suzanne?
Levy.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Mella.
Yes.
Sawyer.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, and Paul, congratulations. And because we've now scratched the wound off of the chicken man, and because I saw Rick salivating at the opportunity to write another story about that, Paul, I want you to understand that whatever you may have heard about that incident as it related to the mascot there as advertising, it was never against the law, okay? Never. There were never any code violations. I don't care what people tell you. It was never against the law. There's never an issue with that, okay?
We love the chicken.
Yeah, I don't want to cause any, issues with the public. And so, in that regard, I was just saying that I would prefer to use that mechanism in an appropriate manner, while at the same time not making it, so the public is, has disdain for my institution. The city for allowing me to be up there dancing around like a fool.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move forward. Number 9B, approve ordinance number 1239 in Lower Pellegrino.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. This is an application to approve ordinance number 1239 as requested by Mr. Michael Weber, who is the property owner. It is to vacate the common interior lot line and associated 10-foot utility and drainage easement, 5 feet on each side of the lot line, for the property line between lots 3 and 4, Paradise, Colorado, filing number 1, with an address of 231 and 241 Thunder Ridge Drive. Both lots are in the suburban residential SR zone district. Early this morning, Mr. Mayor, I received a phone call from Mr. Michael Weber, who had respectfully asked to delay his second reading and public hearing on this ordinance Staff does not object to delaying it, and we have a recommended motion to table the public hearing to approve ordinance number 1239 to May 21st, 2015, the next council hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. Council? Questions? Anybody from the audience?
I have no problem with deferring it. I did have one question, though. In consolidating two lots, it appears that the building was still only going to be built on one lot. Do we consider the possibility that when he sells his lot, that maybe the subsequent person would like to have two lots so they could sell one of them, that type of thing?
I'd like to not get into too much detail and discussion on the application, since that should happen at the public hearing. But the site plan that he did submit showed a portion of the building, a really small portion, on the second lot, which was the impetus for the lot line vacation and the easement vacation. It's feasible that he could redesign the building and put it all in one lot. It's his choice if he wants to consolidate those lots.
Okay. Well, we'll hear about it on the 21st then.
We will hear about it on the 21st, and as a matter of fact, he may choose to withdraw the application and to keep his two lots as discrete lots. So we will wait to hear what he says.
Well, he still needs that 25-foot clearance between the building and the lot line, too.
Yeah, he was only removing the lot line and the easement between that lot line. None of the setbacks are changed, none of the other easements are changed, nothing else has changed.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. If that's the case, we just need a motion to continue until May 21st at this point.
So moved.
Second. Suzanne?
Matthews.
Yes.
Mella.
Yes.
Sawyer.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. And we'll move on to number 9C, and approving ordinance number 1240, and Mr. Buggery.
Thank you, Mayor. Council will recall that our last meeting, we brought to you on initial posting ordinance number 1240, which would allow the city to utilize the lease purchase financing option called certificates of participation for refinancing the Public Works Facility Police Operations Center as collateral for improvements at Memorial Park. You may recall that initially the COPs were going to be used for the Fleet Maintenance Facility and Memorial Park, but with the DOA grant that we received and some shifting of some funds, we're going to be able to pay cash for the Fleet Maintenance Facility. You approved that contract tonight to move forward with that. So we're only going to need to utilize the certificates of participation for the Memorial Park renovation project. I must tell you that I was thrilled when I saw Jim Muneer walk through the door as our financial advisor from First Southwest. He's much smarter than I am on the certificates of participation. Plus, he has some good news to share with the council on the sale of our bonds for the Aquatic Center project. I'd like to introduce Jim this evening.
Thank you very much, David. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad I made it for in time for my agenda item.
Excuse me, sir, would you just, before you start, just give us the name and address, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, Jim Muneer with First Southwest Company, 855 East Tufts in Denver.
Thank you.
And we are acting in the capacity of the city's financial advisor with respect to both the bonds for the Aquatic Center and the certificates that are being considered tonight on the second reading of this ordinance. So first, I'd like to bring you up to date on the bond sale. We have these two transactions that have run somewhat in an overlapping fashion, but as a result of the voter approval that was achieved last November, and for the Aquatic Center bonds, we worked through the spring to get ready for the bond sale. We went through the bond rating process with Standard & Poor's, and these bonds are rated A+. Again, these are general fund bonds that require no voter or no tax increase for the repayment of the bonds. So with that, we worked with the underwriters that were selected through an interview and an RFP process, which are RBC Capital. And after getting the rating cleared, we're able to get the bonds into the market just yesterday. And all of us are, who are watching the market daily, are a little focused on the ups and downs, but I'm happy to report that the interest rate for the overall bond sale is 3.50%. So we certainly came in well under the maximums that were authorized by the voters back in November. So there'll be funding for that on May 21st. We'll close and get the proceeds. So again, a great result and a great process for the city. The second transaction, the one that you're looking at the ordinance for tonight, as David described, will provide the funding for the Memorial Park improvements, and in conjunction with that, we'll be refinancing the Series 1999 COPs, Certificates of Participation, which are basically lease purchase instruments that were originally done to construct the Public Works building and the police building. For the new transaction, we'll actually be releasing the Public Works facility from the lease, and we'll keep the police building subject to the lease, and that's going to be sufficient collateral to produce the 2.4 million for Memorial Park, and also fund the amount necessary to refinance the COPs. So that schedule, we're initiating a bond rating process for that. We expect to be in the market with those bonds the last week of May and close June 16 on our schedule as of now. So again, lease purchase financing is a really widely used financing mechanism for all local governments in Colorado. It is, again, has a particular property that serves as collateral for the lease. So in that respect, it's different from the bonds we sold, which are instead secured by the promise to repay and the voters' approval of that promise. The lease purchase financing is approved year to year, so each year in your budget process, you'll consider appropriating the subsequent year's lease payment. If for some reason you choose not to do that, you'll lose the use of the police building. We think that's unlikely, and also we think that will also allow us to achieve probably the same rating, an A+ rating that we received for the general fund bonds. So with that, I'll pause and take any questions you might have.
We've been backing off on the use of collateral, with no use of collateral, the Public Works facility, for instance. What is our current then difference between what the collateral is and the amount that we're borrowing against that collateral? Can you tell me what the...
Right, we designed a transaction like this to have a sort of a matched valuation. So we're looking to our funding needs for both the refinancing and the Memorial Park improvements are going to fall into a range of 3.4 to 3.6 million as we refine the amount that we actually need to raise for the Memorial Park project. And that is roughly equivalent to the valuation of the police building itself as measured by the insured replacement value that the city documents.
Okay, so the unused collateral would be the Public Works building then?
Right.
I mean, is that like $1.5 million, $2 million? Maybe David has it.
It's about 2.3 million. The delta between the COPs and the Police Operations Center is about $500,000. But as we went through the dialogue and the discussion, I was convinced by Jim and his expertise and his team that it was actually better to under-collateralize than over-collateralize. I don't think I understand it, which is why I'm glad he's here. But the point is we don't need to put up $5 million in collateral for a $3.6 million certificate of participation.
My point is when we do the goals and objectives, if we identify as a council something that needs to borrow against future collateral, we have about that much money.
For a certificate of participation process, that is true.
We're not not spending any more money.
What are you planning, Bob? The trail through town.
Any other questions from Mr. Manier? John?
In the earlier calculations that were done, David, I think we assumed a conservative interest rate for the bond, and I was trying to recall what that was, 3.75 to 4.25 or some such.
I think when I began the process and was sharing the potential with council, it was, I think I started at 4.2 for the bonds and 4.6 for the COPs. As Jim caused my confidence to increase, I kept lowering those down. And actually, the last iteration that I ran was at 3.4%, which was slightly lower. But the reality is, in this type of work, there are 4 different interest rates that are used. There's an NIC, a TIC, an overall, and what I understand is the most comparable to what I was doing is the 3.5, and I was using 3.4. The reality is as I did my analysis, the debt service, because my calculations weren't as complete as theirs, the debt service was off by less than 1/10%. For example, an annual payment that I calculated at $699,000 is actually going to be $702,000. So it's a $3,000 difference that's within my pain threshold.
All right, thank you. Did you sleep better last night?
No, not really, because we still have the COPs to go through. We still have a schematic design to go through, design development. But we've got lots of work left to do before we smell chlorine and I sleep again.
Any other questions? Mr. Manier, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Great timing, by the way. Great timing.
Not always quite so precise. Good to see everyone.
Thank you.
So, Council, before you this evening is the Ordinance 1240 to allow us to move forward with the certificates of participation. And after the public hearing, I would encourage you to approve this ordinance.
Great. Any other discussion from council? If not, we'll go to the audience. Any questions from the audience? Not at all. If not, we will look for a motion to approve ordinance number 1240.
I move to approve ordinance 1240, authorizing the use of the city of Woodland Park, Colorado, of lease purchase financing for the purpose of refunding the city's outstanding Series 1999 certificates of participation, as well as funding improvements to the Memorial Park pursuant to the terms of one or more lease purchase agreements. Thank you.
Second? Second. Suzanne?
Miller.
Yes.
Sawyer.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Mr. Manier. Appreciate it. Okay, we're moving forward. New business, we have none this evening. Public comment on items not on the agenda. I have nothing on my list. Anybody else possibly? No? Okay, we will move on to number 12 and reports and mayor's report. I just have a couple of events to announce. Saturday, May 9th is Winter Farmers Market, Youth Pass Cultural Center from 9 to 1. Saturday, May 9th is a great event. This coming Saturday, the Nepal Mission Charity event. It will be at the Dixon Performing Arts Center at the high school. Nepal Mission is a several-year-old non-profit based in Woodland Park. Their focus now, clearly, is earthquake recovery. 100% of the proceeds will go to Nepal. Suggested donation, $5 per person or $10 per family. Performers include Colorado Springs Conservatory, Woodland Park High School performers, and others. 6 to 8 this Saturday at the high school at the Dixon Performing Arts. That'll be a great event. And my last one is Tuesday, May 19th The Chamber Business After Hours will be at the Colorado Wolf and Wildlife Center from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. I believe that's the first time we've had it there.
It is. It's a new location.
New location. So welcome. And I have one other announcement because it will fall on the 20th, which is the last day of school celebration. I don't know, see anyone in here that qualifies. May 20th from 12 to 3 at the Cultural Center. Will be a lot of fun and free food and games and a bunch of kids celebrating like we did many years ago, the last day of school. So look forward to that. And that's all I have. Move on to council reports. And Mayor Pro Tem Harvey.
Yeah, the Woodland Park Historical Preservation Committee met on Monday. We had a presentation from Arts Alliance on the mural project. I think everyone's familiar with the mural project at this point. But the Alliance is undergoing a Kickstart campaign for donations, and the way a Kickstart campaign works is the goal for the pledge donations is $9,000. They have 10 more days left in that pledge period. If they don't make the $9,000 mark, then they have to return the promises to those who pledged money. They're about at 5,000 now as of this morning. So there's still 10 more days to get another $4,000 in donations. You can do this online. I passed out the cards. The website is online. And if you attended the ceremony we had, or the dinner that we had for Chief Larson on Tuesday night, in that mural now, we're going to memorialize Chief Larson. At the very end of the panels on the building, there will be a figure on horse. It's Chief Larson in his early days as a deputy in Green Mountain Falls. It's a great picture that Lois Sprague has taken, and she will incorporate the chief into that mural. So I encourage everyone to pledge for that Kickstart campaign, because we don't want her to stop at the tree and not make it all the way to the chief's picture at the end. So I'm looking forward to the start of that project. It's going to be great. That's all I have.
Thanks, Carol. Anybody else, Council? Ken?
Yes, keep Woodland Park beautiful. Saturday, May 30th is the cleanup day. There's a free cookout at noon. And you'll see posters like this around town in some of the businesses and being handed out. Please get involved. There is they want you to bring water bottles and gloves and sunscreen, but there are some vests and maps and things that will be available to help guide you into the areas where we need cleanup in Woodland Park. This is a affiliate, of course, of Keep America Beautiful. So we appreciate everybody getting involved and helping clean up Woodland Park, May 30th. And it begins at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Ken. Who else? Mr. Schaefer.
I'm pleased to announce that America West Housing Solutions did submit an application to Colorado Housing and Finance Authority this past Friday for a 24-unit apartment complex here in Woodland Park. Now we have to wait approximately 3 months to get a decision. But it's good news.
Good news.
Yep.
And the obvious question, will you sleep the next 90 days?
Some. Yeah, I'm going to check in with David.
Can we ask where it's going to be located?
Yeah, Highway 67 and Valley View Drive, northeast corner, by your church.
I have an alibi. We did have a Charter Review Committee meeting last night. We covered a couple more sections of the charter. We're moving along on that project, and I think we're going to probably roll our efforts up in August. But again, those committee meetings are meeting the first Wednesday of every month upstairs, and they're open to the public.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it. We'll move on to City Attorney's report. Welcome. I haven't seen you, and you have nothing.
Thank you, but it's very nice to be here.
Hailstorm. Nothing stops the city attorney. Thank you for being here. Mr. Buttery?
Just a couple of things, Mayor. Council, we placed at the dais tonight our postcards that talk about some of the events. These are produced by Brian Fleer's office in cooperation with the Chamber and Colorado Main Street and, of course, the city. If you have a desire to have a handful of these to take to your places of business, we'd be happy to provide them to you. Just let me know how many you would like. And now for just a bit of levity, Kip.
Thank you. I'm pleased to report that last Friday, May 1st, was the 5th annual Pikes Peak Lions donkey basketball event at the high school. And we were able to participate. We had 10 people. We put together a team, and we represented the city very well. We brought home the first place plaque. This is the second time in a row that we brought the first place plaque home, but we proudly display it at the front desk in City Hall if you want to check it out.
And let's give credit where credit's due. Aren't one of our council members the high scorer in that game?
Yes. He is right over there, Mr. Sawyer.
Couldn't have been anybody else.
No one thought it was John.
I think he even rode the donkey backwards.
It was fun. I was going to jump up and stand on it, but that would have been too much.
So Kip's going to be known as the donkey whisperer.
That's all we have this evening.
Thanks for the levity. I have no comments on written correspondence, and we're going to move on to item number 15. And I am going to ask for approval of the city manager's term of employment as were presented to council. I'll need a motion for that.
So moved. Second.
Suzanne?
Thank you. Sawyer.
Yes.
Schaefer.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Mella.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and this meeting is now adjourned.
All is closed.
Yeah.